I think just feeling like not only I was going to have the plan that I needed to accomplish my goal, but also just the team behind me was a really huge benefit for myself. So
school. So I want to start at the very beginning. So would you mind just telling me about the challenges that you were facing prior to starting sleep school when we first spoke during our sleep consultation?
absolutely. Yeah. So I feel like as a first time mom, we did everything wrong. We were rocking my daughter to sleep. We were pacifying her to sleep and feeding her to sleep. And she was getting to the age where I wasn't super comfortable to do like a cry it out method, just because she was getting to be kind of in that toddler range. So prior to coming to sleep school, I felt really stuck. I read more about sleep than I feel like anyone normally does. And I really didn't feel like I had any answers. Like everything I was reading, there was something about it that I just wasn't comfortable with kind of trying with my child. So I still remember being on my introduction call, and I remember talking with you, Natalie, and saying like, I don't think this is gonna work.
Yeah.
I don't think anything will ever work. I remember looking at my husband one night in the middle of the night and saying like, I don't think we're ever gonna sleep again.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a total lost cause, just because of how many sleep dependencies my daughter had. And I think the biggest thing that really helped me from the start was just like getting onto I'm a planner, so I like to have like a structured plan. And so
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do that. Obviously, like I'm not trained in sleep consultation. So really just getting with the team to better equip myself too.
Yeah, super. And prior to coming to the consultation, did you have an idea in your head that you wanted to sign up? Did the consultation sway you in a direction, or was there anything within the consultation that made you question whether sleep school
Going
was a good fit?
into honestly, when I set up the initial call, I sort of forgot I had even filled out a form in the middle of the night. So I was like, oh great, like this is happening. And I mean, after the first call, I was completely sold. I think just feeling like not only I was going to have the plan that I needed to accomplish my goal, but also just the team behind me was a really huge benefit for myself. So no, I didn't have any concerns with the program. At that point, I was like, I will pay any amount of money. I will do anything because sleep is just such a necessity.
Absolutely.
And I
So
think we started. I think our first call was like the beginning of October. And I remember telling my husband, like, she will sleep by Halloween. Like, I gave us a month because I know
yeah.
it's a 2 week kind of expectation, but I was like, maybe she'll take longer. And so I said, we're going to sleep by Halloween. And we started right away. So our sleep box, I think, came within like a couple of days, but we started weaning her off of her night feeds prior to that, playing a lot of games in her crib. And that's really what I always tell people was the biggest like differentiator for us, because what we were doing is we were like prior to sleep school, putting her down as like carefully as possible. I'm sure so many parents can relate to this. And then within a matter of time, she would wake up crying. And I never really, prior to sleep school, understood the psychology that, the reason she's waking up crying is because the last thing she remembers is being in your warm arms, being rocked to sleep.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing for us in the beginning was really getting her comfortable in her own room. I remember prior to sleep school, I would, even during the day, like if I had to run to the restroom or something, I would put her in her crib and she would just scream for forever. Um, and so really starting to play those games was really important for us. And I noticed a change right away in just her kind of her comfort level in her own room. So I kind of knew we were going on the right path. And then once we got our sleep box, I think we spent, instead of the 7 steps, I think one step took us 2 nights, which I was really bummed out about, but it was totally fine. So I think it took us a total of 8 nights to be like truly sleeping through. And then we had obviously a week of predictability and maintenance. So I exceeded our expectation of Halloween. Like we were sleeping through more like mid-December.
Amazing.
And when I tell, like, I talk about this to everyone because I feel like it's one of my biggest accomplishments so far as a mom, because I think so often, like, there's so much social media out there about everything when it comes to being a parent. And I think that this was something that I found, and I really I did spend a lot of time every like day before we would go into the nighttime. My husband and I would obviously go through the app, make sure we were comfortable going into the night, kind of talk about what our roles were going to be. And that is one thing that I think is critical to the success of the program, is like making that investment in just making sure you're prepared
Yeah.
for the nighttime. But I just feel like that was really important for us, just to go into the nights feeling confident. And then just obviously reaching out when we needed help. But I tell everyone, like, I cannot believe it worked. I remember like sitting on my initial call, I read every single review of Batelle before I even went ahead. And I remember sounding so skeptical, just because I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And I truly feel like we taught my daughter a skill. Like, and I just feel, even with my daughter getting sick last night, like, I feel like I know what to do. And it's okay if we kind of ebb and flow. That's part of life. But just feeling confident about, here's how I get us back on track. I just feel like she's learned so much. So yeah, so
Yeah. Well,
we
thank
have
you
a
so
unique
much.
situation, which is also why I was so excited to work with Battelle. My husband is an ER physician, and so he is like, his hours are crazy. So part of why I was kind of never excited about sleep training was I never wanted to do it alone. My parents obviously offered to like come stay here and stuff, but I never wanted to feel like, oh my gosh, it's the middle of the night and I'm by myself and my baby's screaming. I never once felt like that. Like, the responsiveness in the app from the Battelle team, the team like reaching out the morning prior, just asking if I have any questions, really made me, it didn't even make me feel like they were virtual. Like, I felt like someone was actually in my home helping me. And so that was really helpful. So given kind of that context, every night was a little bit different, which was definitely something I was nervous about, but I think has really benefited Ava and our family, because really anyone can do it now. And so one night my husband would do green time and put her to sleep, and then the next night, I would do it. But I think regardless of who kind of takes responsibility, making sure that both people are on the same page, or whomever are on the same page, just about like what the night is about. Like, even if my husband was going to be working, I was like, here's what's changing tonight. Like, this is what we're going to do a little bit differently. So that way he didn't feel like he was, missing out.
Yeah. And what would you say were the biggest challenges of sleep school whilst you were doing it? Like, obviously this is a huge success story, but there might have been some bumps in the road. Did you experience anything at all?
But in terms of significant challenges, honestly, I think she did really well. Like, from the feedback I've gotten, we probably, she needed it more than anyone. I tell people all the time, like, we're all sleeping through. It's not just, it's not just us. And so she's catching up on sleep from like a year's worth of life, but no significant challenges, honestly, Natalie, that I can think of. I'm
It's amazing
sorry.
to hear.
I think
And
one of the other things I would say for anyone that's thinking about doing this program is just like, don't give up on it. I remember the first night, my daughter was a little like, what is this mantra? Like, this is new, this is weird. And I remember being like, oh no, like, this is a total mistake. She thinks the mantra is weird. We're not, like, it's not going to work. And so I think just like keeping an open mind is something I wish I'd been a little better about early on, because I was just so skeptical. It's just my personality, I guess. But I think just like sticking to it and remaining consistent. Totally. Yeah. And the other benefit, which for us was really big, was just the fact that we have support until Ava turned 6. I think that, I mean, I've already, even though we're in the alumni stage, like, I've already reached out several times, just questions on travel. We earlier this year went on a very large international trip, and like, I wish I had had the support, because I had no idea how to do jet lag and sleep with a baby. So I think just having that kind of in my back pocket also makes me feel like, okay, if I really feel stuck again, I'm not alone. And that's just something that I think is critical when you're trying to tackle a problem like sleep that, you think it sounds really simple, but there's so much more to it. And I think me kind of accepting the fact that I needed help and professional help to get our family to where we needed to be was also kind of a critical moment for us too.
Informed decision. And I'm just so happy that you did choose Batelle, and now we are at
Yeah,
this stage actually talking about how well you as a family are sleeping, not just your
yeah,
little yourself,
yeah.
but all of you, and that's so important just for day-to-day functionality.
It is, and that's the piece that I think, again, just to come back to it, like, I don't think when you're in it, you realize how much it's affecting you, but now that we're through it, like, being able to, like, sit and watch a show with my husband and not be rushing to bed because I don't know the next time I'm gonna sleep, like, I honestly have excelled more with my work, like, my relationships, like, I'm able to function, which sounds so crazy, but I don't think you realize how much it's impacting you when you're going through like sleep deprivation. And so just being on the other side of it, I would strongly urge anyone that's feeling stuck to, just at least try it out. It can really make a huge difference. And I think it's just another option you
Well,
can
too.
have. And we
We
got to a point
You've
where
already touched upon it, but my next question was just going to be, could you share any examples of how sleep school has made a positive difference to daily life? You've already mentioned like how much more productive you are and how much more of a focus that you've now got in terms of day to day. And was there
yeah.
anything else that you wanted to add just in terms of positive experience?
Yeah, I would just say prior to sleep school, I would go into the nights feeling super anxious, unsure on when she was going to wake up, really just feeling lost. So I would say I'm no longer like scared about nighttime, which is a huge, I think I just naturally am sleeping better because I'm not thinking about like what happens if she wakes up or needs me. I know kind of what to do. So I think that's the only other piece I would add is just not feeling anxious about sleep anymore.
Yeah. And have you seen any difference in your daughter's actual approach to sleep? Like, does she look forward to sleep? Do you feel like she's getting a better quality of sleep? Obviously, she's having more hours, but do you think it's a better quality? Have you seen any changes there?
100%. I feel like, last night was actually a really good example. I put her in her crib a little bit earlier than I typically do. She had just had kind of a long day, and so I wasn't sure from my last wake window kind of how things were going to play out. And she, after I gave her a quick hug and said I love you and turned off the light, she laid in her bed for 15 minutes, just kind of like babbling and like looking around. And I think that just says it all. She's
Yeah.
no longer scared to be alone in her crib in the dark. She soothes herself to sleep. She finds ways best for her to get herself to sleep. And again, that's where like I feel like I taught her a skill to her overall.
Wow, that's amazing to hear, and it's really fab to hear it straight from you today. And I think like I'm just so thankful now that you did make that decision after we
I
had that
know.
conversation, because you were skeptical. I remember you
Yeah,
and Aidan,
I know. I
we
feel
talked
so
about the
bad, Natalie.
guarantees.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
not
so
at
bad. I
all.
tell people, I'm like, the first person I met with probably thinks I'm like the worst person because I remember being like, I read all your reviews, it's not gonna work. And like here we are, it's a huge success story. And I mean, when my parents are over, because they watched us, literally rock her to sleep. And I didn't mention earlier, but I mean, she was waking up 3 to 6 times a night. So it wasn't just falling asleep that was an issue for her. But my parents, when they come over, they just cannot believe like what has changed. They're like, is this a new baby?
My last
So yeah,
question was,
sure.
would you recommend sleep school to a friend? But you've already answered that.
Yes, yes, and yes. I would have paid double. I yes, 100%. I don't think there's any reason not to try it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today,
Of
and
course, Natalie, no problem. Thanks so much.